This is Changelog 13 for Heist, the 14th in my series about what's changed and what's new in the game. I haven't done one of these videos for a couple of weeks, and so this is a bit of a catch-up video. If you've been following along on my blog, you'll have seen that was because I took one weekend off for the launch of WildStar, which is pretty cool, you should check it out. And the second week was because I simply didn't have much to demo because I started work on a new feature and couldn't get anything done in a single week. So, starting with week 1. That was from the last changelog on the 25th of May until the 2nd of June. That week I did a lot of back-end work on the character controller. The old character control system was very much a black box. Plugins could give it commands and the character would magically move. And that kind of sucked. So I spent a lot of time tidying up the internal code of the character controller, and then I opened up a lot of feedback systems so that plugins can inspect the state of the character. For example, there's now a way for the animation system to look at the state of the controller and determine if the character is standing on solid ground or not. So for example, if I step off here, now there's a falling animation that plays because there's enough feedback to determine that you need to play a falling animation. There's also a feedback mechanism for when the character steps up or steps down a really big vertical step. For example, I added a free running mode which increases the vertical step to roughly the height of the character. If I run into this wall, you'll see that I teleport up to the top. That's just because I don't have a suitable animation right now. The feedback system tells the animation selector that I've made a really big upstep, and that would be where you select a climbing animation, for example. So now I have everything in place to build a free running system, a bit like Assassin's Creed or something like that, although I'm not going to build one that complete, that would be crazy. This has opened up a lot of the finer control of the character, so that's pretty cool really. You can really integrate animation into character control and get much nicer looking movements. Week 2 was from the 2nd of June to the 9th of June, and I briefly described what I was doing in this blog post. I decided that the next major feature I worked on should be AI, aiming to get NPCs walking around the level, spotting players from stealth, chasing them down, trying to arrest them, that kind of thing. This is obviously a critical element of a stealth-based game like Heist. One prerequisite for building NPCs, and arguably the most important prerequisite, is building a structure called a navigation mesh. This structure contains information about the shape of the world, and is a convenient form for NPCs to query very efficiently. This allows large numbers of NPCs to walk around the world without demanding too much processing time from your computer. Since my levels are all procedurally generated, obviously the navigation mesh also has to be procedurally generated. And so I decided that I'd spend some time polishing up the world generator before I added navigation mesh generation into this system as well. I've had these optimizations planned for quite some time, and I had high hopes for how much they'd improve world generation time. And I can say this has definitely been a success. It's been great. In fact, the only problem with the system is that it's so fast I can't show you anything generating. So instead, here's a building that's generated in under a second while you weren't looking. Finally, this week, week 3, was from the 9th of June until today, the 15th of June. I spent this week working on navigation mesh generation. I spent a couple of days at the start of the week doing a whole lot of research on how exactly navigation mesh generation actually works, and it turned out to be quite a lot more complicated than I'd initially hoped. I eventually settled on using a library called Recast, which does all of the complicated work for me. Unfortunately, Recast is written in C++, which is a load of complicated work. And so I spent the end of my week breaking out C++ tools, reminding myself how to actually write C++, and also learning how to bind together C++ code with C# code. That's been fun. Next week I'll be working on finishing up this navigation mesh generation, integrating it properly into the engine, and then hopefully getting some very basic NPCs wandering around the level. That's it for this week. If you'd like to keep up with the latest news on the project, you can follow me on Twitter as Martin D. Evans. You can follow my development blog at martindevans.me, or of course, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.